Welcome to episode 403. Today, I'd like us to riff over something that I saw on Instagram. For those of you who've been listening to the show for a while, you know that I believe that a lot of stuff that we see out there about business, personal development, and stuff like that, whatever it is you can find, you can always find a way that the sales perspective is going to come in handy to illuminate and enrich what we do in our day to day, not just as business owners, but also as individuals. So that's the reason why sometimes I make these episodes where I find something on the gram and then I come up over here so that we can riff on it. Not only just to get us moving along in our goals, but also just that we appreciate the richness and the depth that having a foundation in sales discipline, selling practice, selling theory, sales philosophy, those sorts of things, how it can deeply inform and impact our day to day. So, with that introduction out of the way, let's get straight to this little thing that I saw on Instagram. Now, it was something titled Tips for a Productive Day. And number one there was set goals. Number two, improve email etiquette. Number three, take small breaks. And then number four, stop multitasking. Now, that was all that was on the post. And I guess it's good. It's nice. It's, okay, I was going to say informative, but it's not really informative since there's not much of a breakdown or, excuse me, there's not much detail there about how these things are going to help. So for the average person, you might come across this and it seems nice. And you smile at that and then you scroll away and you haven't come away richer. But for those of us who have a sales philosophy behind us, an appreciation for how sales discipline and sales practice can inform and improve what we do, trying to understand or flesh out how these things can be productive isn't that much of a big deal. So that's what we're going to do here today. So let's start riffing. Now, first off, there's the question of what is a productive day. Now, if you listen to different kinds of business commentators, especially now that this whole thing of work-life balance and then people's mental health and blah, 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 and stuff like that, they are important. I'm not trying to denigrate them. I'm just trying to say that today the business conversation has gone beyond your economic productive capacity. So there are going to be lots of ideas about what a productive day is. But I just want to point out that we are talking squarely about the business context here. Just in case later on in the podcast, somebody says that the way that we're looking at a productive day is unnecessarily limiting. So let me just put it out here from the get-go that we are just looking at things from a business context. So a productive day, in that case, for me, is a day where your activities contribute to the profit line of the business, or the bottom line, or the top line. I should have done research by now to figure out what is the correct way in accounting to call it. Do we call it the top line or call it the bottom line? So for now, I'll just call it the profit line until I go and do some research and find out exactly what we call it. So if the activities contribute to the profit line of the business or the growth of the business, then it is a productive day. So the tasks that we do don't have to be profit inducing today. So if you're doing a task today and it doesn't bring in Naira and Kobo or dollars or pounds or Bitcoin, it doesn't mean that that has not been a productive day. So long as this particular task that you're doing works over time to the overall growth of the business. Because some folks might say, all I did today was handle the back-end office stuff. What will I say? Back-end digital stuff, like responding to Instagram engagements and then things like that. So primarily, yes, they are not productive, but in a sense, you can see how they aid to the overall growth of the business if in moderating your Instagram comments and stuff like that, you're actually engendering conversation with prospects, people who didn't know you before and who have just come to know you and like you. And the whole goal of having these conversations is to get them to trust you so that you can start having business conversations later on So, like I said, the tips in question that we're going to be looking at are setting goals, improving email etiquette, taking breaks, and to stop multitasking. Now, setting goals obviously helps with the overall profitability of the business because we need to have a target to hit. And then that target is going to determine the kinds and the level of activities that we have to cascade to achieve those goals. In other words, let's say you're a wedding planner or a wedding photographer, and oops, excuse me. Okay, yeah, I was mid sneeze. Sorry about that. The kids have a cold again, and they're sneezing on me constantly. So I think I'm coming down with something. So that's why the constant sniffling and all. Okay, so back to where we were. Okay, I was coming up with a hypothetical. So you're a photographer, or you're a wedding planner, or you sell inverter batteries, and let's say you did maybe 5M in profits last year, and you appreciate the way that it improved your quality of life because you guys were able to take a holiday. Maybe you're able to get a brand new car. Okay, no, you can't get a brand new car on 5M. But anyway, let's just say it improved your quality of life, and so because of that, you guys want to go from 5M to 7M. Now, because of that, you're now going to have some specific tasks and activities that you have to that will cascade down from that. Because if as a wedding planner with let's say 5 or 7M profits, you did 20 weddings last year at a profit margin of, okay, let me not do the math on here so that folks will know that the reason why I studied law was because I was bad at math. So I'm not going to do the math here. So basically, you're going to figure out that to get to that, last year's 5M profits was X number of weddings. And so if you're going to scale that out, you know that you now have to do X plus 2 or X plus 3 or X plus whatever. And of course, that informs whether you're going to double down on the Facebook campaigns, or if it's because you think the uptick was because you attended bridal shows, then you know that you need to attend more, and then on and on and on. So the overall goal that you have is going to determine what are the extra stuff that you need to do to hit those goals. That's what I mean by the activities will cascade on from there. So let's see what else. Okay, yeah. So back to this thing about activities, talking about levels and kind of activities. We have to make sure that these are sales generating activities. Some people call them revenue generating activities, etc., etc. And these are activities that revolve around looking for people to talk to, either online or in person, screening folks who have indicated interest. So when people call up or they hit you on the DMs, you have to be able to have the conversation to weed out the serious from the unserious, like we say over here. Because there's no point in having conversations with people who have no interest in buying today or not anytime anytime soon. People who are just calling in because they're curious. So we have to screen these folks who have shown some kind of interest. Then we also have to fulfill the order, make sure everybody is happy, continuing to build relationships with clients so that we can get some repeat business and referrals. So all the activities that are related to or tied to these activities are the kinds of things that we talk about traditionally when it comes to sales. Sales discipline, that's what we refer to as sales generating activities or revenue generating activities. So you see how the thing about moderating your Instagram feed, can be a sales generating activity if it is part for looking for people to talk to online who could be potential buyers in the future. But then, if all the time you spent on Instagram was just flicking through for the latest gist or the latest gossip, then this is obviously not a revenue generating activity. So the kinds of things you should be doing should be built around that. Sales generating activities, revenue generating activities, or whatever it is you call it in your own discipline, because that's what salespeople call it. But I wouldn't be surprised if you talk to project management people and they call it something else, or if you talk to architects and maybe in architecture they call it something else. That's the kind of where you focus your tasks, whether you're focusing your tasks on drawing or other things like managing client relations or talking to potential customers that bring in the money. So other activities that you do, like keeping the office clean, keeping the house clean, making sure papers are properly filed, making sure a database is well ordered, getting stationery, blah blah blah. Things like that are important, but they don't have to be done first thing in the day because they're not revenue generating activities, and we want to ensure that we do all that stuff when we are all nice, well rested, and prepped up for the day. Now, improving email etiquette. How can that be a productive activity? Well, it can be productive because, first of all, it's outward facing, and then it helps us communicate effectively with our potential customers and other stakeholders, and then that way we're able to move the agenda forward with them, and that's why it's a productive activity. So, if you listen to yesterday's episode, or was it 2 episodes back, about raising finance and how to deal with possible investors and financiers, then email etiquette is going to be something that will help with that, because it's helping you to bring in the capital that is going to finance the business until the sales start coming in. And then, of course, if you're trying to get revenue not from financiers, but you want to get from customers directly so that you can bootstrap, then improving your email etiquette is also important, because it's not every time that you hit people up on the phone that you're going to get through. And then there are some people who don't like phone calls. For me, I find it surprising, because I think phone calls are the most efficient way to get about business in general. And in planning a wedding, it's nice to be able to talk to your wedding photographer, sharply, and other vendors, and get things moving. But there are some people who there's some brides and grooms who don't think that way. In fact, I had a bride that we did everything through email. I think it was some close to 50 something emails, and I didn't even get to see her or talk to her until I had paid the deposit. That's the first time, until she had paid the deposit. That was the first time that it has ever happened, and I thought it was quite weird. I assumed that the average Nigerian is going to want to see someone or talk to someone before you transfer a couple of $100,000 naira, but well, then I can't argue with that. So some people are email people, and so email etiquette definitely helps, because it's outward facing. Then another thing, email etiquette, if you're really good at email, is going to have people feeling validated and listened to, and then is also going to make people empathize with us. So it makes it easy to carry on conversations, and it will make us appear as credible professionals. Because if our email game is crap, most people are going to assume, especially Nigerians, because you know how it is when we get to primary school, and what's that word? There's an emphasis that we place on coming correct, sounding right, looking right, things like that. So if you come out the gate with crappy emails, then folks will just assume that you are unprofessional. So email etiquette, it's going to be really good, helping us come across as credible professionals. Now, taking small breaks, that one might be harder to argue to see how that's a productive activity. How that's a productive activity. But then from a sales perspective, any sales trainer that you listen to will tell you that taking small breaks is going to help. Is going to provide room for you to rest and refocus. And that's going to help with vitality. And you really need that when you're reaching out to customers and other stakeholders in business. For those of you who have had to take a meeting with the bride or the groom or any other party, and you're just recovering from malaria, or you're hung out and you haven't had enough sleep, you realize that it doesn't make for the best presentation. So taking small breaks is going to help, because it's going to help with your focus and vitality. So taking small breaks, even though technically speaking some people will say it's doing nothing, actually is going to help your productivity over the long run. Now, getting rid of multitasking is also going to help productivity, because it will allow you to focus on all the activities that we have outlined earlier. And if you've been listening to the episode for any length of time, especially the episode that I had on multitasking, there's research out there that shows that multitasking, when you're multitasking, you're not really multitasking, you're actually context switching. You're only paying attention to one thing at a time, but you're just hopping from task A to task B. You're not really doing A and B at the same time. And so, because of that, there's cognitive overload. Basically, your brain is working harder and it's working slower. So, at the end of the day, you may have spent more time and exerted more effort rather than if you had just batched your activities. They say, I'm going to do everything related to project A and wrap it up, then do everything related to project B and then wrap it up. And then there's some research that shows about how it might affect your, what's the word? Is it effectiveness? Effectiveness and accuracy? Something like that. So, bottom line, if you want to get things done quicker for most people, and you want to make sure that you did a bang up, correct job the first time, then multitasking should not be for you. Then, multitasking also might lead to distraction because it slows you down because of the cognitive overload. Yeah, that's something that I've mentioned. And then, plus, it doesn't help if sometimes the multitasking that you're doing involves social media. So, if you're trying to respond to emails and you figure, okay, while I'm responding to emails, let me get up on my Instagram engagement, clear out the DMs, and then engage with people who have liked or shared or stuff like that. Well, you know how it can be. So you're switching, and then you're on Instagram, and then that video about Bola Tinubu and his hand shaking comes there, and then comes up on the timeline, and then you watch it, and then you're laughing, and then next thing you're reading, and you go down that whole rabbit hole of Nigeria, where are thou, elections, blah blah blah, and all whatnot. So yeah, multitasking can lead to distractions. So are these tasks productive? I hope I've been able to convince you that yes, they are, because they will help advance the bottom line of the business or the top line. I really should go figure out whether it's top or bottom. If you're an accountant, hit me up. Yeah, hit me up. Messages, DMs, whatever, and let me know so that I can start using the proper term once and for all. But most of all, I hope I've been able to demonstrate that these are the chief benefits that you are going to have when you take a sales-oriented way of looking at life and business. It helps flesh out all these truisms that you come across, and then you have a yardstick or some foundation against which you can question some things. So if people say, is this going to be, these are the tips for a productive day, or these are tips for this, these are tips for that, you have some rational basis, some background against which to measure it, to say, yes, this measures up, or no, it doesn't. And if you don't have this kind of, well, let's say, framework or worldview or whatever, it doesn't have to be a worldview. But the thing is, if you don't have some kind of framework or worldview, then essentially you're going to be going from one nice sounding Instagram quote to another, to some brilliant tweet to another, and you're going to be pushed to and fro, and at the end of the day, you're just getting all kinds of fancy ideas that you're not going to be able to apply in a practical sense. It might make you feel good, but you're just consuming all kinds of stuff without moving forward. So that's the reason why I advocate for those of you who listen to this podcast and those of you that I run into eventually in person. That's the reason why I think having a sales mindset or sales philosophy, sales worldview, sales frameworks, whatever it is you want to call it, I think that's why it's particularly useful. So thank you very much for listening to today's episode. I'll catch you guys at the next recording.